Good morning, class. Today we will cover a very important atomic model which was put forward by Niels Bohr. After studying about Rutherford's model, we initiate few questions in our mind, because the Rutherford atomic model could not explain the movement of electron, which is a charged particle, around nucleus continuously without emitting or absorbing any energy, and the spectrum data does not apply to the model he used. So few questions arose in mind, that how can an atom collapse, or why atoms are stable, and why does an atom give line spectrum. Scientists considered there must be another model of atom. Means few of the things were not invented which are explaining the movement of electrons in their orbits around nucleus, because nucleus has positively charged bodies, protons. So you can see Niels Bohr in this picture. Niels Bohr was a Danish physicist who joined Rutherford in 1912 for his postdoctoral research. And in 1913, Bohr presented his atomic model based upon quantum theory. And for this, he also won a Nobel Prize in 1922. So, sir, we study your work now. Now, Bohr presented few postulates. These are written. He said that electron revolves around the nucleus in definite circular path called orbits or shells. So the paths on which electrons are moving around or revolving around the nucleus were called as shells or orbits. And these orbits or shells, he called them as energy levels or energy states. And he's designated these paths as K, L, M, N. He used alphabets. The K energy state was the first state. Then the L was the second energy state. The M was the third energy state on which electrons are revolving, and N was the fourth one. He said the energy of these orbits increases as the number of clouds increase. Like the energy of the orbit or the shell which is closest to the nucleus is lowest. And as we move away from the nucleus, the energy of electron increase. Then energy of electron remains constant up till when it revolves in the same orbit. Means revolving around the nucleus in the same energy level or same orbit or same shell, the energy remains constant. It does not emit, does not absorb. And for this reason, they were called as stationary state. Another postulate was electron moves from lower energy to higher level energy when they absorb energy, because the energy of the higher state is more than the energy of the lower state. So if electron wants to jump from the lower to higher energy state, it needs to absorb energy. In doing so, a photon or energy or light energy is absorbed by the electron or atom. And when electron moves from higher energy level to lower energy level, it must lose energy. So when we see the orbits of the Bohr's atom were similarly the orbits on which the planets are moving around sun. So the first orbit around the nucleus is named as K shell. The electrons which revolve in the K shell have the minimum energy. Then the electrons revolving in the second orbit means the L shell have their own energy level, and the energy of L shell electrons are higher than K shells, and M shell then N shell. So these electrons do not change their energy till they revolve in the same orbit. What about the phenomena of X spectrum? You know, when electron move from lower energy level to higher energy level, for example from 1 to 2, when it jumps higher from first orbit to second orbit, it is going to the orbit which is having more energy level, higher energy state. So a photon will be absorbed by electron. And if electron are jumping down again from N to L, they will be losing a photon to come back to L level. The next, when the energy absorbed or evolved in a fixed value, the photon absorbed or released must be having a constant amount of energy difference, and this energy difference is equals to the energy difference of these orbits, which is equals to h mu. Mu is the frequency of the light emitted or absorbed, but h is the Planck's constant. The Planck's constant is 6.63 into 10 raised to the power minus 34 joules second. It's a fixed value. So electrons can transact between the energy states or between the orbits, but their difference should be multiple of these two variables. One, the Planck's constant. The next is the frequency of the light emitted or absorbed. These fixed amount of energies make line spectrum. So the Bohr's atomic model was at the practical side, because this model can explain the presence or the making of line spectrum by atoms. Further, we can also see in this picture that the electrons are revolving on their fixed energy state, keeping their energy constant, and when they absorb or emit energy, they can jump or interact means they can change their places among their orbits. Next, we can also have an idea about how many electrons can reside in a fixed energy state. This is not the whole picture. Niels Bohr also worked on their angular momentum, because these momentums were not discussed in Rutherford's model. You know, the angular momentum of any charged body is equals to m, the mass, the v, velocity, and r, the radius. As electrons were moving on a circular path around the nucleus with a positive sign, and this electron has a negative sign. So the mass of the electron, the velocity, the instantaneous velocity with its revolving around the nucleus, and the radius, the distance of this electron from its nucleus. So any charged body which moves on a circular path must be having its angular momentum. So this angular momentum can be calculated when the Planck's constant is divided by 2 pi. So the formula goes m v r is equals to n times of, n means the number of orbit, or the number of shell around the nucleus. And h over 2 pi. Pi is a constant value. 22 by 7 means 3.14. H is the constant value. Its value is 6.63 into 10 is to power minus 34 joules into second. And n is the number of orbits. So this is how we can calculate the radius of each stationary state, each orbit on which the electrons can revolve. So only those orbits were possible which gives n times of h by 2 pi. So read the topic from the book, then try to write the answer of this question. One of the postulates of Bohr's atomic model is that angular momentum of a moving electron is quantized. What does it mean? You can also take help from the internet, and the book is also giving you answer. And you explain its meaning and calculate the angular momentum of the third orbit, means the m orbit, or the third orbit around the sun, or the orbit for which the value of n is 3. Okay class, understand it well and try to write the activities and send it back to me. Till then, see you tomorrow. God bless you. Take care.